Hey everybody,
Hi, everybody.
what's happening? We're having so much fun with these live
Oh, they've been
videos.
so fun. We've been so excited about this one today.
This one's a really good one. By the way, we have a baby that's just gone down for her nap, so you may hear some sound of her. We have our monitor in here. We're in the office space, and so we like to just keep tabs on her. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, breaking free from the house stuff white picket fence matrix. And one thing we really want to drive home with this call is how all these areas of the relationships, the kind of outsourcing of validation, the job, and this notion that we have to have a certain type of looking house home scenario, how they're all very, very related and very connected. Anyway, so yeah, this is sort of our theme today, is kind of unpack this belief that you got to have a house, you got to have even a location, like one place where you live. Like all that stuff is actually very much up for grabs, and we'll talk through various scenarios and how we've kind of made our way along our path.
Yeah, it's amazing how conditioned this stuff is too, So there's a couple things that we're generally conditioned to believe. Like one is that we need to be in one place, and usually it's the place you grew up. A lot of people, it's amazing, astounding. Like somebody told us about this study that there's something like 95% of people, I don't know if that's in the Western world or what, but I don't know, probably around the world, live within a 5-mile radius or something of their home, when they're adults. We just have such, again, we've been talking in this series about such a narrow, conditioned view of what our lives can look like when it's totally infinite. You could live anywhere in the world, any kind of place. It's often cheaper to live in other parts of the world than it is where you grew up, And alongside that, it's this idea of this antiquated idea, you have to stay, you have to settle down, dig roots, be in one place. Often it's the place you grew up. And that's often tied to the work matrix that we've been talking about. You settle down, you get a job, you get a house there, and you grow roots, and you just stay there for the rest of your life until you get to retire, and then you can travel. It's the same idea, It's the same kind of enslaved matrix idea of having to live a certain way, and it's in one place. And then there's also the own your own home matrix, which is the idea that you will feel more free, but really it's more safe and secure if you own your home, and why, right? It's usually what happens. I mean, some people are able to buy their home outright with cash, and it's not a wait, but usually what happens is you end up getting a mortgage debt that you're enslaved to for at least 30 years of your life, and often more when you refinance and this and that. And I know the case for me was that when I bought my first home with my father, and I bought a home in New York. He really wanted to. He told me, and really instilled that in me. Was invest. And we did that. And I for years, was working the job that I had to just get by on the mortgage, just get by on that. So it's just interesting to blow this open. That's what we want to do on this conversation. We'll talk about this matrix idea of these very conditioned ideas that we have around what we're supposed to do with our home, be in one place, own, settle down, and how infinite the true landscape is for what you can do as to where you live.
Yeah, one of the best things that you can do for yourself and for your kids, for your family, is travel, because traveling has shown me and the both of us, people don't live the way we live in the Western world in other places. Certainly here in Costa Rica, for example, it's very much a more natural relationship to the land and the seasonal cycles and all of that stuff. But I think this notion that you have to be in one place really sort of goes back to the Great Depression and the World Wars and the urgency people felt. And I think a lot of those echoes were felt in the generation of, say, our parents, but the urgency people felt in getting a job and keeping that job, because the Great Depression terrified people. It was a tough time to be alive, and it was a very tough time to be in the United States, for example. Those echoes, I think we're now just dissolving with this exploration that we're undertaking. That time frame really made a powerful imprint on people that has lasted to this day. And those are the echoes that I think we're still kind of dealing with. People tend to follow work. Like even to this day, people follow work. The beautiful thing now is that the whole notion of a job and your home is blown open by technology and the internet. Mainly that even if you keep a job, you can work remotely. So you're no longer tied to your location in that way. Or you can change that and go freelance and maybe have a few clients and work from wherever you want. Or the best scenario, at least for us, is to start your own business, create your own offers, and generate value in exchange for supporting others in their own path and how they're living. And that way you can really be anywhere, more or less, as long as there's good Wi-Fi. And here in the mountains of Costa Rica, we have good enough Wi-Fi. So there's really no reason to stay where you are unless there's like a mental kind of block. And so this is sort of step one, is realizing like, okay, it doesn't have to be like this. And so much of our relationship to things, so much of our need for a job revolves around this big monthly expense for your home, whether that's a rental or mortgage payment. And so once you let that go and explore lots of other options, and we'll get into those, suddenly like life can become a real adventure, it can become real exciting. You're not pinned down by this notion that you have to stay here, you have to pay this massive bill, you have to work this job to pay this massive bill. And we've said this before, but how insane is it to have, like, say, $1 million apartment in New York City and to work 70 hours a week to pay for that apartment that you barely enjoy because you're sleeping, you're eating, and you're going to and from the office. Millions of people live that way. It doesn't have to be like that at all.
No, and we've been over the years kind of breaking free of that model, have been just kind of deconstructing our own life beliefs around this and looking at various options, because we've kind of looked for this idea of home like over and over and over again, and like where we're going to land. And I really relate to that. Like, this is really primal. Like this is, again, the work is like related our whole lives to survival, making money to survive. And this is your shelter, this is your home. It's very primal, it's very tied to survival. So there's so much safety and security that we have wrapped up in this idea. The amazing thing is when you start to let go and you break free, like Stephen's talking about, like so many options are out there to ways to live. And what ties you to your home, right? It ties, a job ties you to your home, and also the stuff you accumulate, like we accumulate stuff to fill our houses. And we just accumulate stuff. Like all the times we've moved, it's just been so noticeable. We just keep shedding more. And it's so freeing to shed, because what happens when you shed all your stuff is that you get closer to your true essence. Because it is true, it's said that your possessions possess you. And I really believe that that's true. It takes you away from your true freedom to move and to be and to follow your excitement in the grand expression any moment. We get rooted to our homes, and it very much becomes tied with our identity and our freedom and our ability to move. So we've had a lot of iterations of this. You want to talk about our experience a little bit?
Yeah, that's fun. Getting rid of stuff is like so exciting. It started, I guess, with about 4 years ago now. About 4 years ago now, you and I were in India, or we were in Cambodia?
Started with
something?
that, yeah.
We were in Thailand. That's right. So we were in Pai, in northern Thailand at Halloween. So we were in Thailand this time 4 years ago, and we made a decision that we're going to travel through Asia for an extended period of time, and we're going to live out of backpacks. Here's the backpack I use, and this is it. This is like a book bag that you would say use at university.
It was amazing.
All of our
clothes. You
clothes.
don't really need that much.
You don't need that much. It just sort of blew. We wanted to travel. We wanted to be nimble, and we didn't want to be lugging luggage everywhere. We didn't want to have big suitcases dragging them through train stations, in particular in India, or airports or what have you. So we lived out of these backpacks, and it just sort of changed everything for us. That, like, necessary, and what are we compromising by accumulating a bunch of stuff that, to be totally honest with you, I doubt 90% of it really brings or adds any value to your life. It didn't in our case, but it showed us that we were sort of exchanging stuff for experiences, which is kind of crazy.
That's it, stuff for experiences. That's really what ownership and possessions are, and that's why they rob you of your true freedom.
Yeah, and so one thing that we started to do was get rid of things that we didn't use. So like books that you've read, you can give those to a local library. You can give those to people who need them, who might want them. Clothes that you haven't worn in 6 months to a year. Like, let's be honest, how much clothing do you really need? And be honest. Like maybe you need more than I do. I mean, I don't need that much clothing. I like wearing the same things. I don't like to have to think about what I'm wearing. I just have things I love to wear, and I wear them. And I just sort of intuitively grab what I'm going to wear and I wear it. And I don't think about it anything more than that. And when you cull down and when you create a lot of room and you only have, say, 40 items of clothing versus, say, 300, you really keep the stuff you love. Like everything you have, you really deeply love. It adds something to your life. And so this is a way to sort of go through your stuff. Like, do I love it? Does it add value?
Yeah.
Like, if it doesn't add value, but you love it, then keep it by all means. But so much stuff. Ooh, it's starting to rain. So much stuff.
If you get cut off,
you'll know why. But so much of our stuff doesn't do either, and it's just sitting there. And for the most part, I think people know this, but they don't feel like dealing with it. They just don't want to deal with it. But you will deal with it if you realize what it's doing to you. It takes up room in your psyche. You have to create space to store it. Like if you realize like the huge upside there is to minimizing, getting rid of stuff, like deleting all of this crap from your life, how much time and energy would be freed up. You'd do it by this time tomorrow.
Yeah, there's some really great, we'll be reading some in the course for sure, like, and some videos like on this, basically these great tests, like there's some really cool minimalists out there who just really great, like really exacting tests about whether to keep stuff, like whether it brings you great joy or great utility, basically. And you really have to like ask with every item. And the truth is that like the other stuff is often like, it's a drain in one way or another. It's a drain on your energy. Often, I don't know if you guys relate to this, but I would like, my mind was cluttered, my energy space was cluttered by thinking about my stuff. Books I had on my shelf that I'd never read and wasn't gonna read, but thought about, or clothes in my closet that I hadn't worn in years, but I was waiting to fit me again. Or so, I mean, think about what you're replaying in your mind every time you think about this stuff. It totally is in your way of being connected with source. Really, it's like it's thinking. It often drags you down, but most of all, it limits your mobility and it limits your free expression to actually follow your excitement. And we just take it as a given that we need all this stuff. It's like it's just the way that we live life, especially in the Western world. So this is really tied to your free expression. This is really tied to that. So along with that, so your house and your stuff, we have these very like set ideas about what this needs to look like. And if you want to have a house, if you want to have roots, if you want to live where your family is, like, that's awesome. This is about, like, all of our videos are about following what you love, what brings you joy. If you love living down the street from where you grew up, that's awesome. We went back to San Diego when we had Sophia, for example, and like I really was so happy at first. It's like, oh, I'm so happy to be home. And then there were other things about being there that just didn't resonate. But the great thing was, like, we were able to shift, So what we did was we sold this like very expensive home we had in New York. We were done living in New York and we wanted to move to California. And we had this dream of having, this has been our dream, of our own piece of land where we could farm and grow food and maybe have some other dwellings where people could come visit and have our own house. And we've been thinking about a tiny house. We've been really exploring the tiny house movement, which we can talk more about here in the many infinite array of options that you have to. But tiny house is really, it's a very small house, as small as you decide it is going to be, that's very uniquely designed just for you. Everything has a purpose, and that is what, it's so aligned. It's so aligned with you, It's so aligned with your movements and your needs and what you love. That's what's so beautiful about it. But we had that dream. We were like 6 months pregnant, and like that safety and security like thing kicked in, We're like, let's buy a condo. It was just like right away. We bought a condo.
We need a condo.
And we had great neighbors. In lots of ways, it was a great place to live, but it so didn't resonate. Like, it just didn't resonate. It's a really easy place to have Sophia. But after a year, we were like, okay, this place isn't us. Like, this is not our fullest expression. And we were able to, it's not like approved really to sell your house that fast. In fact, we had tax consequences for it and all this stuff, right? It's not like viewed as like the appropriate thing by the Matrix to be able to like buy and sell like that. But that's what we did. And then we moved into a van, and the van is like the ultimate in freedom. It's the ultimate in the freedom of your place, of your choice. And getting to be wherever you want at any time. And it certainly is like, it's not a life for everybody, you know, but that was our excitement. And we designed the van like a little tiny house. It would be exactly customized to our needs. And then we designed the route of our dreams at the time and kind of took that route. And then things have progressed from there. What's beautiful is that, like, we probably don't want to live in a van full time. And a lot of people do that and love that. We probably don't want to do that, but we love it. And it always comes back to us. And it has led us, just by that mobility and that ability to be free and follow what was exciting and not be stuck in one place, we've been able to follow like the natural course of what's developed for us and our excitement. And that led us here to Costa Rica. And now we're like at another phase of like, what happens next? And the truth is, for us, like, it's still evolving. You know, we thought, oh, we were going to land in one place. We've still had that idea. We're going to land in one place, land in one place. And the truth is that, you know, we'd like to have a home that we can come back to eventually. But right now, like, we're so called in many different places that it doesn't really make sense for us to have a home. And so we're able to make places home for a time that feel really good and resonate. And we don't have a lot of stuff anymore. And we have like a few boxes at our mom's houses of the things that have survived the test over time of like, do we really love this? Or is it really useful? A few choice books and photographs and things. But it's enabled us to be flexible to our calling.
Yeah, I don't know what you know, basically at this point, we've just surrendered any notion of like what it's supposed to look like, or that we're going to be here for a while. Like, it's just, who knows? We're being called now forward in a variety of different directions, all of which are super exciting, really feel aligned and really good. So it's just sort of like surrendering the whole notion that you even need a van or a tiny house
Yeah.
or a piece of land or a country or anything like
important.
that.
That's so
like,
important.
We don't know. It's all up, literally all up for grabs. And any tether to, you know, hooking back into that old idea that I need a house, I need a place, I need a location is like going away. Whatever's left is going away. Most of it is gone. That may not be the case for other people, but I think there are a few things that you can do right away. Like, if you own your house and you also feel like a little stuck, sell it. Sell the house, take the capital that's in it, and do something with it for yourself today. So much of what this is based on is delaying your creativity. We call it retirement, but it's really about just sort of putting off how you want to step in and feel the freedom in your outer life that is due to you. Well, people wait till 65, 70 and get to that place in time, and they're not really able to do it like you can when you're younger. So sell the house. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, or there's interim steps, right? Like what we did when we weren't feeling being in New York anymore, we were called to travel. We didn't know if we wanted to live in New York. We like rented our place for 6 months, you know, and then we traveled, and then we were like totally open up to like the many different ways to live, and that we could be more nomadic, and that was exciting to us. And then we sold our house, you know. So it's like, but this idea that like you have to be there. You just have to be there and hunker down. Like, there's a lot of ways to open that up. You can Airbnb it. Wow, people are making so much money. Trust us, we've been in a lot of Airbnbs. People are making a lot of money and doing beautiful, creative things with the way they make home for travelers. It's like we've stayed in so many sweet, like, amazing experiences. Like, we have amazing experiences in a lot of the Airbnbs, and we've made friends around the world in Airbnbs. So, you know, but there's so many options is the point to your home space, you know. So you can creatively like create more freedom, more financial freedom, more location finding for yourself by first like using your home as an asset and renting it out. Or if you're just done, if your excitement is like, let me break free of this, like I don't want to be here anymore, like sell the thing. You know, when we sold our place in New York, this, like, I remember thinking it had appreciated so much because we're in this really hot part of Brooklyn. It was a great opportunity, but I was like, oh, if we held on to it for 5 more years, oh, we could make so much more. And we were just like, what is the thinking? And this gets to the matrix of our mind, right? Like, what is the thinking that leads me to pause my excitement? To like pause at the feeling like, no, we're definitely ready to leave here. We're not happy here anymore. We don't want to work jobs that have to make us support a living in this place in New York anymore. So what is it? It is total lack-of thinking. And this is what I was thinking when you were sharing. It's not about like your physical home. Like you said, you don't need a van. You don't need anything, you know. It's knowing, it's trusting that no matter where you go in following your excitement, no matter what you do, you will have a home because your home is sourced within you. We recorded a video on this after a period last year traveling Costa Rica where we had been feeling really lonely and lost, and we discovered that like as long as you trust your home inside, as long as you trust your direction, then you will feel at home, and you will be called to the right physical place to be, and it will feel great. Home is in the flow. That's what we talked about. So it's not about like having something to hold on to, and the more you hold on to it, we talked about this too, anything outside of you that you hold on to for your safety and security, it's not going to work. Often you will lose it, and it's just because the universe is trying to get you to feel more free and connected with source. It's not going to work though. You will never truly experience freedom and joy if you're holding on to something outside of you like that.
Yeah, and banks own the houses, let's be honest.
You don't really own it anyway. Most often.
Most banks do it.
Most often.
What you just said was great. Rent it out and travel, Airbnb it and travel, and collect some income off of it, and it'll change your life. Or sell it and rent. The whole idea that we need to own our own home is antiquated. It's like, uh-oh.
I think we're still on. Facebook's doing.
Are we still there? Risha, can you see us?
We don't know if that was Costa Rica Wi-Fi kicking us off or what, but anyway.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was saying, but so if you own your house, it's optional. It's not. It's no longer a great investment. Like I think that was preached in the 60s and the 70s. Own your house. Own your house. Own your house. That's no longer a great investment, particularly when many people have 6 figures or more invested in their homes. That money could be taken out. You could live on that for a few years while you generate something else that would bring in so much more, freeing you from the job. Forget about retirement. You won't even care about retirement. You'll be doing what you love. So that whole model, it just has to go. It's irrelevant, and it completely does not need to be adhered to. And that's the whole point of this program, is to give people all these options and show them how to make this massive shift in their lives.
And honestly, guys, when you think about it, like Steven said, like the banks own your house. You don't. In most cases, great for you if you do and you love it, But often the banks own your house. And what is that? It's the slavery matrix of the banks making more money. Like we get proved this over and over again. The banks own your house. Look what happened in the last crash. It's like people's houses got foreclosed or whatever. It's this false security, and it's totally conditioned. The only true security comes from within. The only true security. And you can have any life you want with that, take that 100,000 out. Oh my God, how long do you live on that in a dream location in Thailand, or like any other kind of like number of beautiful remote islands you probably dream about retiring in around the world. Let us tell you, like we've been to a lot of these places, you can eat for like a couple dollars a day, etc. Like those, it really does exist. It really does exist. So, and we've said on other videos, like I'm just thinking about it as he was talking about retirement, this heartbreak of retirement. Like, my father, I'm really like happy for him. He worked till he was like in his early 70s and was so vibrant and like really like for a while healthy, before he got sick with cancer. But a lot of people we've not, and there's that. It's like 10 years of his life that he was like totally free before he died of cancer, right? And we've had friends, we each have a friend right on the cusp of retirement. Steven's right before retirement, I think, and my friend right after. Steven's friend went blind due to a stroke, and my friend died like suddenly of a blood disease, right? And all she ever talked about was retirement. She had traveled the world cruising. That's all she ever wanted to do. She talked about it for years and years and years and years and years of her government job. So it's just, again, it all comes back to not being owned by stuff, by putting your worth and your belief and your freedom in a physical reality. It's really about creating that reality.
Here's a model I love. This is one that I think many people can wrap your head around. So in our case, we sold it all and moved into a van, and then we traveled in the van. And then that took on a life of its own. And then we got drawn to Costa Rica, and then we've been creating all this stuff since then. Now we're here, and it's been like one foot in front of the other. And every time we think we've got it figured out, we don't know. We don't have it figured out. So we've just surrendered everything. We're just sort of like, here we are today. Later this week, we'll be in Southern California, and all bets are off, really. And we feel most free and happy and totally aligned in that place. But let's say you've got a lot of money invested in your home. You sell that home. You downsize. You get down to the absolute essentials of what you need.
And love.
And like you're not starving. You're not like denying yourself joy and and pleasure or anything like that, but you just get rid of the dead weight. And you move into a place that's maybe half the price or more or less per month, and now you're in a much more manageable place. Now, leaving that job that you've needed and depended upon so much is now way more possible. Particularly if you take some money out of your home, now you can live on that, and you can create something with that. Like, there's so many opportunities to create income that are not tied to your time. Like, trading time for money, as we said in the job video, is the worst exchange alive. There's no worse exchange. Your time is invaluable. There's no price tag that's worth your time. What is worth your time is create a system and a business that can be a value exchange reflective of your calling and your priorities and who you really are, that's aligned with you, right? But if you downsize, you sell the place, you take some money out, you build something, you live in a simpler way for some period of time, you'll be happier, you'll be generating something truly aligned to your calling, and you'll build something that can then support you ongoing past this. We just added this bonus to the course, and we'll make an announcement about this officially, but we might as well drop it in here. We have a friend of ours who's going to hop on the phone with all the participants, and us included, and talk through the vast array of different options in front of people for starting a business. As I've said before, the threshold to entry into entrepreneurship has never been lower, and there are multiple models that exist for creating a business that can support you, that's aligned with who you are, that you'll feel joy doing. You'll build something that can become a system that can create income and revenue for yourself and your family without it being tied to your time. I think a lot of people sort of think about, oh, they want me to quit my job and then become an entrepreneur. Well, I'm no Elon Musk. Well, nor are we. Like there's only one Elon Musk. But there are so many options for creating businesses now that can support you. So he's going to come on the call. We're going to have a special session with him where he's going to walk through all of these different options, models, if you will, available. He's a digital nomad. He's traveled the world.
Done a bunch of businesses and worked with a
pretty amazing guy.
Yeah.
So like that's a model I think people can get behind. Downsize, sell all the stuff you don't need, including your house, if you want. Take all of that money and then like intelligently build something that can then support you for a long period of time that's not attached to your time. And like the insane thing is like a lot of people nowadays who are starting online businesses will leave the US, will leave the Western world, and they'll go to a place in like Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is beautiful, or Koh Tao in Thailand, which is like this amazing beach community. And suddenly you realize, like, wait, I was working a desk job in Midtown Manhattan for how many years, avoiding the fear of what it would be like to build my own business in frickin' paradise. Like, so that, like, people do that.
You can live a long time if you saved a little without making any money at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's like, look at how strong that presence is in your life. How much money do you have invested in things that could be liquidated that aren't really serving you, aren't really aligned? That's the key. So what we're looking for here is an aligned life as much as possible, stripped of everything else that doesn't really bring that kind of value or that joy in your life. That's the goal. And the point of Exit the Matrix is to leave behind anything obligatory that's programmed that's not who you really are. And so this discussion is really about kind of showing you what kind of options there exist. I mean, you could move into a van. Like, we had an amazing time in that van. Or you can move into an RV. People do that. Like, people spend, this is the crazy thing about the United States. We would travel in the van, and we'd go to these RV parks, and we'd find people who had retired and are now living in their RV, traveling the country. And we would go to bed, and I'd be like, they could have done that 30 years ago.
And they loved it.
They're loving it, and it's so fun. It's so fun to do that. Like, listen to our interview with Tynan. He did that for years in his 20s and early 30s. He traveled the country in his RV, and then he would travel the world because his expenses were so low.
And he still does, and he does amazing things. Like, once you also kind of get into this, like, if you're into travel, if that's something that excites you, like, there's so many ways to do it. Tynan's the man and the expert on this. Like, he showed us so many ways, but where you just like hack the travel system and get credit cards for points and go on cruises that are like on sale for like super cheap and travel the world, whatever, like whatever your thing is, right? Like we've used credit card points to travel to Asia for free and lots of other things. So anyway, there's so much out there, and we'll be sharing a lot of these resources. Stephen mentioned his special guest, and I wanted to say too that if this, we have a lot of special guests in mind for this course, but if this alternative living structures, if this is a real interest of people in the course, like I was just thinking about our interview with Andrew and Gabriella Morrison, that is an amazing one. We should link to these in the comments. It's an amazing talk about home and how the standard home situation that we're taught and programmed and we think is going to be the American dream. They talk a lot about this in the interview. Yeah. Just completely washes our dreams away. And you look around, you're like, wow, I thought I was supposed to be happy. I thought this was supposed to make me happy. And somehow you get possessed by it, and it's not even you anymore. And they have an amazing story about how they sold their home and took off for Baja for 5 months with their kids and lived in a pop-up trailer and had a wonderful time living on the cheap while they figured out their next move. And then they became, they built their own tiny house and were leaders in that movement, and that whole calling emerged. Andrew was a builder, and this new whole expression emerged. It was amazing, and they felt more free. And so there's so many people that we know from certainly from the podcast, and now we're in that network of tiny housers and van lifers that if that's an interest, we have like a few awesome experts on tiny houses and van life that we can, and Airbnb too probably, that we could bring into the program to talk. But we kind of want to see what the main interests are. We know that creating your own business or entrepreneurship or doing things from your calling that maybe outside the job box are going to be really relevant. So we're bringing this guest on that we'll announce in more detail tomorrow.
But to get to Melissa's question, it's a good question. Definitely. This is, so we're not going to promote any sort of model necessarily in the program. We're going to lay out what the choices that are available. But really what this program is about is getting in touch with your guidance. Yeah. So this is not about kind of copying or mimicking us. Not to suggest that you were thinking that, but this is not about following even our path.
So it's good to
That's a great question. But there's a unique kind of expression for you, and we can help you kind of clear away everything so that that unique expression can flow through effortlessly, elegantly, gracefully. And I was thinking about this earlier today, and I just want to highlight it with your question. It's like, if you live in a major city in the United States or Western world, Europe, you name it, anywhere, and you look out your window at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, 95% of everybody's going to work. Everybody's life looks the same. Everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's kind of timing the same thing, the same way. Their lives are structured the same way. And really what this is about stripping away all of that. Even our path. We've tried to live in a way that is aligned and that can shine a bright light behind us. But it's not about even doing what we've done, but it's really about kind of stepping forward as you. And if that means just showing up for your current job and being more expressed and being more joyful there, then we will cheer you on. If it means doing something else, going part-time, getting a better job, or I don't know, there's a multitude of options there, but you'll really be guided by your higher self and who you really are, and we'll help you do that. That's the ultimate goal. It's not about kind of following any sort of format or script, but it's really about letting go of any of that and stepping forward aligned as you are trusting that the proper path will unfold for you as it should be.
Yeah, this is really about you, and that's why we wanted to keep this program, this group fairly small that we worked with too, because it's really about individually discovering what you're about and your calling. And you may know that already, but it may get even more opened up and more expressed, and the ideas may get even more open, but really honing into who you are, what your calling is, and then helping you to find the wide array of things that you could do. If it's not your own business, it could be, you could be a healer and work for an amazing organization. You could be a writer and work for an amazing organization. Like Stephen said, maybe you love your job, but you don't like being in one place. You want to be able to travel. Like, I took my job at first and turned it into a remote gig, and that's more possible than ever. And so there's like so many different permutations of this. It's amazing. And there's so many also just like aligned service organizations out there that would be dying for people who are really aligned with their calling. And we have a side project that I'm working on now that it's very infancy, but we've developed this amazing network now of people who are doing amazing things to save the world in a variety of fields, right?
Phenomenal.
So, we are creating a network now. We have a network, but we're creating something more online. It's very early. That would be a resource for people who are like aligned in their calling and want to hook up with one of these types of organizations, or movements or events, or, so there's there's just so many things out there, and it really is about finding out what your thing is and us helping you actualize that.
Yeah, and within the confines of the program, if it comes up that a person is really aligned with somebody that we know, so some portion of our network, somebody we've interviewed or somebody that we personally are connected to as friends, like we will make a connection. Like we're not, this is about getting people into a life of real joy and meaning. And if it would make sense for, say, a participant in the program to get connected with some guest of ours who has a position open that would really excite that person, we will absolutely make that connection. You know, so our Rolodex is sort of part of this program too. Should people really feel drawn to connect with somebody that we know, we'll absolutely do that. But really, this is about kind of getting connected to the source that you are and letting that design with you at its central focal point, shedding all rules and obligations, creating something truly unique and your own, which is absolutely what you should be doing. You know, the fact that everybody's life looks the same, it's insane. Like, we're all very different. We're all very unique, and our lives should reflect that. I hope that helps, Melissa.
Yeah, if you have another question, please feel free to fire it away here or reach out to us personally. But it's a great question because we do talk a lot about that, and often that's because, like, you know, once you find your calling in your own creation, that's hugely available now with the internet. So we talk about that a lot, but it is so unique too. And because the opportunities are infinite, it's hard to talk about all the variety of things that it could be, because it's really about your unique expression. I love what Stephen said, like the fact that it all looks the same, both in terms of like work, jobs, and houses to a large extent. You know, the fact that there's like everything looks the same. It's not because it's supposed to be that way. It's because it's conditioned that way. You know? It's sky's the limit. It's infinite. You know, you could do anything, and that's really what we want to help people to do, because the world needs your expression and your joy. So, yeah.
So tomorrow night, so applications are closing Wednesday. Get your application in if you want to be a part of this program. Wednesday is the deadline, and wherever you are in the world, if it's before midnight, Wednesday, October the 10th. It's valid to submit your application. So I would encourage you to do it today, just to give us time to get through these. So please submit your application ASAP. We'll be going live tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, to answer questions. We've received a number of questions. We're actually going to put open a post in the community soon about other lingering questions people may have, so we can address all those. We'll talk through the program some more, and obviously if you have questions and you want to interact with us live, please do that. So again, that's tomorrow the night, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and we'll be posting about this bonus we just announced here. We'll share about that too with a little more detail. And what else? Jeez.
I think that's it. That's it. But we love the questions, and they're great questions, and a lot of people have them, you know, so it's only clarifying our offer and our intention by having those. So we love to engage, and it's just it's fun. You know, it's just the beginning of what we're going to be able to do together. So anyway, that's it, I think. That's it. Yeah, Melissa, if you have any follow-up, feel free to share below. Anybody, if you have questions, please post them in this thread, and we'll get right back to you. Cool. Bye for now, guys. Bye now.